Hello, YouTube. That was so lame. Hi guys, my name is Kristen and a lot of you guys might know me as Kirby the Dragon on Instagram. This is Kirby. I basically wanted to start this YouTube channel because going through YouTube channels about bearded dragons when I first got Kirby, there was a lot of information that I wanted that I couldn't find on the internet. So today's video is basically going to be going through my experience when I first got Kirby all the way up until now, 8 months later, where he's like 9 months old. He's shedding on his mouth a little bit. And so yeah, so like I said before, a lot of the things that I went through in the beginning of getting Kirby, I couldn't really find much information online, and I was constantly on Instagram doing Instagram polls and asking people questions, other reptile owners, if his poop looked okay, if I was using the right tank setup, if it was fine that he wasn't eating for so long, and I was getting really worried. So I'm going to be just touching upon a lot of those same problems that I have that you also probably aren't going to find a lot of information on like you want to on the internet. So I'm going to be touching on 9 main points, and if you want to just time skip to those ones, I'll leave the timestamp and what they are down below. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is the things in his tank, or the things outside of his tank, that you should be using that the internet didn't tell me was wrong. One of those things includes a UVB tube, not one of those lights that you screw into like the dome, okay? That's okay for a heat lamp. You can put the heat lamp into a dome, but one of those coily like UVB ones, like the white ones, you don't want to put that in like with a light bulb. You want to have a tube. It's a T5 tube. I'll put a picture right here. If I figure out how to insert pictures. First video. So yeah, you want to get one of those tube ones. It's T5. I use the one from the company Arcadia. I know other companies make them, but that one is what I have seen is the best. Another thing is that the cage that I got him, the 40-gallon tank that I got him, came with reptile sand. You do not want to use reptile sand. Some people like it and some people are okay with it, and other people are not. And I'm gonna tell you why I chose not to use it. I just didn't feel safe, because a lot of the time when you drop food in there for them, if they're babies, they're just gonna pick up the food and take some of the sand with it because they don't know how to aim properly yet or anything like that. So they'll pick up some of the sand with them, swallow it, and that could cause them to be impacted. Basically, they won't be able to poop and it'll be really bad, and you could have to go get it surgery and a bunch of whole other problems that could go down just because you put sand in your tank. So what I did is I used newspaper, not newspaper that has writing and ink all over it, but blank sheets of newspaper. You can really just get it online if you just look up like blank newspaper paper. They come in giant rolls, giant spoolies for like $20. So you can totally do that. Cut it to the size, tape it to the bottom of the tank. That's exactly what I did. And when they poop on it, you just wrap up the paper, throw it away, put new paper down. It's really simple and probably a lot easier than sand. So the second thing I'm going to be talking about is the fact that Kirby was a runt. So getting the runt of the litter basically means that you're getting the one that's the smallest out of all of the brothers and the sisters. So Kirby was really tiny compared to his brothers and sisters, and that's the reason why I chose him. I chose him because I knew that a lot of people had already come to the store before to look at bearded dragons, because the guy that I got it from already told me that. And he was the smallest one, and all the other people before chose the bigger ones. And I knew that that was going to continue to happen, and that Kirby would be left over and nobody would want him, and God knows what kind of home he would go to, and that he would probably need special care because he was so small. So I took him. I always did that with cats, with dogs that I would buy. I would always take the smallest one because I know that they would need extra care, and I really felt like I would be the person to be able to give that to them. So because Kirby was a runt, what does that mean? Well, that meant a lot of stress when I got home. I got him in his tank when he went home. They told me not to touch him for like 48 hours so we could get acclimated to the tank, so that made sense to me. So I didn't touch him, but I did try to feed him. So a lot of things that you'll see about when your bearded dragon first comes home kind of talks about how they're not gonna wanna eat for a couple days. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. You know, they're gonna get acclimated, it's gonna take some time. That 2 days for Kirby extended into 2 weeks. So you can just imagine the stress level I had. So I go to school in the mornings and then I go to work in the afternoons until 6:30. So I'm gone for like 10, 11 hours of the day. So during that 10, 11 hours that I was at school and work and Kirby was here, I was stressing. I was stressing so much, just thinking like, oh my God, please just eat when I go home. I was praying. I was like, oh my God, please, like I can't have this child die. And so I was so stressed out. I bought him worms when I first got him. He didn't want to eat any of the worms for 2 weeks. I was messaging people on Instagram like, what is going on? Am I doing something wrong? Should I get something different? My mom is so against roaches, so couldn't try that. For 2 weeks, I was freaking out. I would come home, I would start crying if I tried to feed him worms, and he still didn't eat them, and I was just freaking out like the whole time. So basically, I was playing with him one day in my hand. He was like this tiny, he was like the size of my finger. I was playing with him one day in my hand and I was like, I remembered that those cat videos, you know how there's cat videos where they show like pictures of birds and then the cats like go crazy? So I decided to do that with Kirby. I don't know how this thought popped into my head. I decided to do it with Kirby, but with crickets. Now, mind you, every time I would put down a worm in his tank, he would be so disinterested. I'd put it in his face, he'd run away, he'd just like sit there. I'd put it in his tank for like 2 hours and he wouldn't go for it. And I was stressing out, like, why won't he eat? Is there something wrong with him? Maybe that's why he was so small, because there's something wrong with him. Maybe I should take him to the vet, you know, all this other stuff. So I'm like, what can I show him? So I was holding him in my hand one day and I turned on a video of crickets. I just typed in cricket video and it was a whole screen of just crickets moving around. And that little baby, leaped. I've never seen him have this much energy. Leaped from my hand to the laptop screen and started going like that, like all over it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I freaked out. I was so happy, you guys. I was so happy because finally that seemed like something that he wanted. He actually wanted that. And he didn't want anything. He didn't want greens. He didn't want worms, any type of worms. I bought like the rainbow orangey ones. I don't know the type. The BSFL worms, the hornworms, which he's still not interested in. I can get into that. The silkworms, which he loves now. That's his favorite snack. I bought all of those and he was so disinterested. And then the second I showed him the crickets, he leaped towards the screen. And I had never seen that from him before. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, we have to go to the store right now. I have to get him crickets. I have to. And so when I bought him crickets for the first time, he went for them. He was so happy. And he was eating, finally. So I guess that lesson is that you'll never know sometimes. And I've talked to a lot of other bearded dragon owners. Sometimes you just won't know if your bearded dragon will like the food that you give them at first. You know, you come home with them, you put a roach in their face, and they're just not having it, you know? And that could go on for days. Online, they tell you that it'll be like, oh, like 3 days, like 4 days. No, this was for Kirby, like 12 to 14 days. And that's worrisome where everything you read online says it's a lot shorter than that. So I'm telling you right now, it happens and they will be healthy if it's longer than that. I promise you. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is length and weight. So once I saw on Instagram people posting pictures and stories of measuring their bearded dragons and weighing them, I was like, yeah, I should be doing this. It's not really something that you think about when you first get your bearded dragon. You don't think, like, oh, it's one of the essential things that I need, but it is. I'm here to tell you that it is. You need to be tracking how your bearded dragon is growing. So I just got this tape measure on Amazon, probably like $5 to $10. And I also got this food scale on Amazon. It measures in grams. So that's how I measure Kirby's height and weight, is through inches and through grams. And just to track and make sure that they're growing properly. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is something that I think is the biggest point out of all of these. It's okay to worry. It's okay to mess up, and it's okay to worry. It's okay to worry. There's a lot of bearded dragon people that are like, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you with all my questions. Even I did that. Even I was like, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you with all my questions. I'm sorry, I'm just such a worried bearded dragon mom. It's okay. Everybody goes through that when they have their first pet, any type of pet. When they have their first child. I mean, this is basically your child at this point. But yeah, it's totally okay to worry. I mean, you're going to worry about anything that you're brand new at. Even people that have been doing reptiles for a really, really long time still worry about new additions to their reptile family. The next point I'm going to be talking about is shedding. So there was one time within like probably the end of the first month or sometime within the second month of having Kirby, was that his skin one day was like grayish white, and I was like, what's happening? And I was like, oh God, I messed up. I did something wrong. Oh God. Back to the worrying thing. I was like, oh my God, I messed up. I did something really wrong. Like, I don't understand why he's turning white. And then all this research online and asking people and all this stuff, I found out that it's probably just shedding. So what I did is every day when I got home, I would feed him and everything. And then I would put him in like this much water in some Tupperware, just like a small Tupperware square, because he was really tiny, so he could fit in there. Now I have to put him in the sink because he's way too big. But yeah, just this much water. And just like take your hand, pick up some water and like rub it on their back and like, you know, pour it over a little bit of them, not their face. They hate that. It could get in their eyes and they start like twitching. They don't like that. Not their head. If you want to put some water on their head, just take some on your finger and just rub it and take some, yeah, that. I just did that for like a week, maybe a week and a half, and then his shed started coming off, and I have some really funny videos of his shed flaking off all at once, his entire body. Usually when they get older, it'll come off in sections, like first their leg, then their tail, but no, when they're babies, it's usually all at once. Their first shed will be like all of their whole body shedding at once. Also, one thing to note when they're shedding, before you notice that they're beginning to shed, they notice. Before you can see it, they feel it. So basically what that means is that they're gonna start rubbing all over their rock and rubbing all over their log, and you're gonna be like, what, are you okay? Like, bruh. Yeah, they're fine. They're rubbing all of their shed off. They're trying to get their shed loose so it's ready to flake off, because it's horribly uncomfortable. Imagine if all of your skin started peeling off all at once. You would want to try to rub that stuff off as quickly as possible too. So the next thing I want to talk about is staying in one place. A lot of bearded dragons like to just sit in one spot all day long. So Kirby, for example, sits in his favorite spot all day, from the minute his lights turn on at 8 a.m. to the minute they go off at 9 p.m. He's in that one spot the whole time. Sometimes I have to take him out from under his favorite spot and put him on the basking spot, because boy, that's just not healthy. Like, you can't do that. But most of the time, they're fine. They're fine. They like to sit in one spot, whatever spot that may be. If it's in the basking spot, if it's in a cool side spot, if it's under something, they just like to sit there, and that's probably fine. What's something to worry about is if they're doing that, but also when you take them out and put them on your bed or on the floor and they're sitting there still like that with their eyes closed, not sitting up, not running around. So Kirby will sit in the same spot all day in his tank. But if I take him out and put him on the floor or put him on my bed, he'll run around and have a great time and yada yada yada, run all over my body. But if your bearded dragon doesn't do that when you take him out and he's still lethargic, then that might be cause for concern, and that might be time to call a vet. Also, if they're not eating and laying around and not pooping and laying around and stuff, then that also could be cause for concern. So that brings me to my next point. So when you take your bearded dragon or any reptile, amphibian, or bird, you want to take them to an exotics vet. You don't want to take them to a normal veterinary clinic, one that's like for dogs or cats. You want to take them to one of those specialty ones for exotic pets. Those are going to be the vets that really know what they're talking about most of the time. By most of the time, I mean I have come across bearded dragon friends, snake friends who have veterinarians who still don't know what they're talking about, which is kind of crazy to me that they're even allowed to preach this information that is wrong. Like, some vets will tell you that it's okay to feed your bearded dragon pellets. It's not. It's like okay, as in like they won't die, but like that's not what you want to do for them. You want to feed them live food. You want to give them, you know, vitamins. You want to give them calcium and vitamins. So you want to get a vet that specializes in reptiles and exotics. And when you go to your first vet visit, you really want to listen to what they're saying, because if you know that what they're saying is wrong, you might want to switch your vet. Another thing with the vet is you want to make sure that that exotics vet is within your area, because that means that if something were to go horribly wrong and you need emergency services with your bearded dragon and you're not going to get there fast enough, you want to get a vet that's not like an hour away. You want to get one that's pretty close. And if you can't find one that's that close to you, then it's probably not the best time for you to get a bearded dragon or any type of reptile like that. Imagine if an emergency situation happened and you needed to get your bearded dragon or reptile to the vet immediately. Having the vet be an hour away isn't going to help them, and they might not make it, unfortunately. So you really want to make it a priority to find a vet before you even get your animal or get any of the other stuff for your animal, because that is the number one priority on this list. Get a vet before you get the pet. I made that up, but I don't know. I feel like that could already be a thing. Another thing about the vet, one more thing, is that you have to be prepared for the vet bills. You will go to the vet for your first checkup and they'll want to do a blood test maybe. A fecal test is usually what they ask for, and not really a blood test unless they think something is wrong. But they'll mostly ask for a fecal test and also just the checkup in general, and that'll cost you some money. For me, it cost, with the fecal test and everything, like $400. So if you don't have pet insurance, and which I don't really think is necessary for a bearded dragon, because you shouldn't go to the vet that often for a bearded dragon, maybe like once a year for a checkup, unless they have an illness that is like you know, something that's you need to go to the vet a lot. But other than that, my bill for that visit, I want to say, was like $400. So it's not cheap for just a normal checkup, guys. Like, it's not. So you really want to be prepared. If you only have $100 in your bank account every month, then that's another reason why you probably shouldn't get a bearded dragon, because that first checkup that they get, or if something goes wrong and you have to immediately take them there, you want to make sure you have the money for that. So the last thing I want to talk about is one of Kirby's habits that I don't actually know is that popular, but I don't know, it happens with him. So one thing that I experience with Kirby as he's gotten older, this didn't really happen in the beginning. This has only been happening for maybe 2 or 3 months now. So from the time he was like 6 months on to now, which he's 9 months now. So what Kirby does is he will eat a crap ton of bugs. Excuse my language. He'll eat a lot of crickets within like 2 weeks. He'll just eat them nonstop, and I'll have to buy them like twice a week, and like, oh, it's crazy. And then the next week I'll buy like a ton of crickets because he's been eating so much, and then he'll just won't eat for like a week and a half or so. So he'll like eat a lot for 2 weeks and then eat like nothing for like a week or two, but salad. He'll still eat his salad though. That's how I know he's fine. He'll still eat salad. Or he'll only eat like 2 or 3 crickets that day. So he'll go days and days and days of eating like 30 crickets a day, and then days and days of eating like 3 to 0 crickets a day. It's the craziest thing. If anybody else's bearded dragon does that, please comment down below. But yeah, he's totally fine doing that. At first I was like, this isn't normal, why isn't he eating? And then some people were like, it's probably fine, he's fine. Is he gaining weight still? And I'm like, yeah, he's gaining weight, not as fast as before because he's not eating as much, but he's still gaining weight. They're like, that's fine, as long as he's not losing anything, he's perfectly fine. That's very important and something that you definitely need to remember and keep in your mind. If your bearded dragon is losing weight, that is probably something that you should call the vet for. But if they're not eating or something, but they're still gaining weight or their weight has been maintained, then it's probably okay. So that is it for my first YouTube video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to give it a like, that would be great. If you want to subscribe for upcoming bearded dragon videos, that would be awesome too. Also, let me know down below in the comments what kind of videos you guys would like based off of my experiences. I could do a cage tour, that could be cool. I could take you through all of my different friends on Instagram with the types of bearded dragons that they have. There's lots of different breeds that I've seen that I'm friends with. I can do a lot of different videos, anything you guys would want. So leave it down in the comment section below, let me know, and thank you for watching. See you guys next time.